All right. Clock starts when the first tweet goes up. I need a shave. Jesus. This side. Right here. Look at that. Touching the 5. Like a weirdo at a bus stop. All right, here we go. David Bixenspan. This I thought was an unbelievably great question. What type of patterns do you look for to determine if a fighter is irretrievably washed? Cowboy has now had a few fights that felt like he either was Till or Edwards, or could get there soon, Gas Tank versus Hernandez, only for those to turn out to be bad nights, matchups, weight cuts. Yeah, he does not follow the pattern at all. I think there's a few things I look for. The number one thing I look for is, do they throw back? So go back and watch, for example, BJ Penn versus El Pantera. God, I can't remember anybody's name today. I'm so sleep deprived. Yair Rodriguez, excuse me. And then you can look even in the Dustin Seaver fight, a little bit less so in that one. But he doesn't throw back. He just kind of sits there and takes it, right? That is something you look for. They could be done in that fight, but it's I don't mean someone who just gets bombed on. What I mean is there's this prolonged thing where they're not quite getting crushed, but they're not engaging. That to me is the sign of a fighter who's done. If there's a real noticeable deterioration in their physical composition, that's another. Obviously, chin can be another one. But, you can lose your chin and still have the will to fight. When someone is just sitting there taking abuse and not throwing, but circling maybe just enough to not get finished, that is my number one sign. But if you notice with Cowboy, that's not what he's doing at all. He's out there kind of getting after it. Next. Here we go. What should be next for Cub Swanson? Man, after his 4th loss in a row, he really only loses to the best guys, but still a top featherweight in my eyes. Man, that was a hard one to watch because Cub is such a nice guy. You really like him. You really think highly of him. Again, competitive. He's not so much in the Moicano fight, but in many of these other ones, he's pretty competitive. Yeah, man, it might be time for a reset. It might be time for a reset a little bit. And maybe stop fighting the very, very best. Maybe work back from the division. And I just think he needs a confidence-boosting win, He's a pro, and I don't think he lets any one win really deter him. But I think he just needs one to get back on the horse. So if the game is going to pass you by, and it passes by everybody eventually, you don't want to do it with the guys at the very top all the time. Maybe try and see if you can reset the opportunity by dialing it back a little bit in terms of the competition. Now, the rule is those guys don't want to lose to somebody down there. They don't want to give their name to somebody who could be some killer up-and-comer that we don't really gauge properly. That's always the risk you run. But I just think getting a win will put him back in a better headspace and enable him to move forward. Next. I never get picked, and apparently my questions aren't good enough, so I don't want to bother. Should I block this person, Danny? Just for fun? You've been picked, Alexander Da Mota. I guess that's the cousin of Da Zone. Next. Luke, please don't take Azard off us. We'll get relegated next season. He's contributed 50% of our league goals this season. Let me just say something. I said this before. If and when Real Madrid get Azard, or especially if they get Pogba, and especially if they get Mbappe, which they probably won't, but if they did, I'm going to be, as insufferable as I already am, I'm going to be even more insufferable. I want everyone to know that. Next. Should the UFC have waited for the winner of JDS Ngannou to face DC as opposed to booking the Stipe rematch? No, because the rule there was DC wanted to fight Brock, and if Brock for some reason wasn't available, DC was pretty clear, then I'll go to Stipe. Okay, well, Brock's not available, so now they go to Stipe. It was a fine decision, and it was a gamble, by the way, that worked out in Stipe's favor. So now he's going to have a second chance or I guess a first chance, but a second opportunity at defeating Daniel Cormier. We'll have to see how well how it goes for him. But no, Cormier was pretty clear about what the line of succession was. I kind of thought that Stipe should have got out there one more time and not taken a year off, but maybe the year off will be good for him. We'll see. Next. Does John Jones get the winner of DC versus Stipe? I'd love to see it, but probably not. Probably the winner of Ngannou versus JDS. Next. Who has the best live streaming sports platform currently? Boy, that is a good question. I would say YouTube TV for my needs, because I get my UFC on there, I get my NBA on there, I get my skins on there. I get DC United. Well, I don't get DC United, but when they're playing on FS1, I get the major things that I need off of that. You got Flow Sports, which I don't think is very good. Although I will say this, Flow Grappling of all the Flow platforms is by far the best. DAZN was terrible in the Canelo Jacobs fight. What a mess that was. They botched the in-house walkout. They botched virtually everything. They didn't mic the ring well. I thought they shot it okay, and I like Chris Mannix. I thought he was good. Sergio Mora and Brian Kenny, people thought they were biased towards Canelo, and they were. I didn't see it quite as bad as others did, but I agree. They didn't really call what Jacobs was doing as favorably. But I generally didn't have a problem with them. I like Brian Kenny a lot. So I didn't care about that much. But, dude, just like a big fight, you should feel and hear and absorb a big fight. And they didn't do – they could not have made that worse in terms of getting that right, which is weird because when they do Bellator, I don't feel the same problems at all. So I don't know what it was for the Canelo Jacobs card, but it didn't go right. So there you go.